Let's get hyped. Welcome into the Husker247 HypeCast. I am Mike Schaefer, joined by Michael Bruntz, Brian Christopherson. We are Husker247, and this week's special guest, following up the Northern Illinois win for Nebraska, we will have Channel 8's Lauren Michelsen joining us, making her Husker HypeCast debut. A lot of debuts this year. A lot of new folks getting on the HypeCast. They're getting to join probably the most premier preview podcast for Nebraska football in the country. I don't know anyone that does it any better than us. I also don't listen to anyone else's podcast, so it'd be hard for me to really accurately judge, but that's not important here. Lauren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. I guess I'll be the judge how much fun we have here today, if this can be number one podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if you feel like you did not enjoy the experience, you can always say no in the future, and none of us would hold it against you. We're surprised anyone says yes, to be honest.
Sounds good. All right, let's get into this. This is fun.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we can. All right. As always, we will start on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going to throw the first question to Lauren Michelsen right away, since she's on the hot seat. How did you feel about the Heinrich Haarberg performance? And what do you think of how Nebraska's offense looked when he was the quarterback?
Well, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better game for the homegrown boy to start, right? The first home game at Memorial. That alone was a great storyline heading in. I feel like if you're a Nebraska fan, you're automatically rooting for him. And with Sims out because of injury, there wasn't anything else to lose, right? I mean, I thought he looked pretty comfortable. Some of his throwing mechanics had me flinching every time, but he moved the ball down the field well. I felt like he had some good connection with Kemp and Fedoni, and I liked the use of a little bit more of the tight ends last week. He looked comfortable for his first game as a starter. I mean, that's got to be a lot of nerves. He's still a relatively young guy, but I was kind of shocked on Monday when Matt Rule's basically like, they're co right now. We're gonna make a decision come game time, and my opinion is, how can you not go with the guy that helped you win the game, took care of the ball well, significantly less mistakes turning the ball over. I thought he looked pretty good. There's still a lot to work on. I guess if we have Sims come out on Saturday and start, and he can take care of the ball the first couple drives, great. But I like that they're having them kind of working as co right now. Satterfield did say yesterday it's not going to be any type of 2 quarterback rotation game plan by any means, which is good, of course. But I was a little shocked about how they're not going with him for sure. So I liked the way he played. It gives me a little bit of confidence in the growth of the offense moving forward in the next couple of years. But you know what? If Sims is healthy and ready to go, we'll give him another chance too.
Michael Bruntz, the running back situation took a big hit coming into this week, as we learned both Gabe, Ervin, Rahmir Johnson out for the season. Anthony Grant, by default, becomes your number one running back. What did we see from Anthony Grant on Saturday as he appeared in a game for the first time since the fumble against Minnesota? And what are your thoughts on the running back picture kind of as we move forward?
Yeah, it's rough. With Grant, he basically carried all the time last year, so this is nothing new. I think this coaching staff does have confidence in him. I know, obviously, Matt Rule talked about that during fall camp, that was having the fumbling issues, the Minnesota game being what it was. But I guess you kind of have to trust guys when there aren't a lot of options, too. I think Emmett Johnson slides pretty easily into that Rahmir Johnson role as a third down back, occasional ball carrier. And I'm eager to see what they do with Quentin Ives. They wanted to redshirt him. He had been working exclusively with the scout team until Sunday when they learned about all the injury issues that they had and guys being out. So they had to move him up to the main roster. So my sense is they're probably going to be a little bit slow with him to kind of see how it goes with the other two. But it's going to be the Anthony Grant show. And it's when you're a run-heavy team that wants to win in the fourth quarter and do ball control and all that other stuff, it's it's tough to just do it with one guy, but you don't really have a lot of options right now. So we'll see what they can do with him. But I'm expecting to see not as much of a rotation as what they've had through the first 3 games, just based on who's available. And also, I think just kind of getting guys up to speed further down the depth chart.
BC, what do we make of this offensive line 3 games in? Obviously, last year, it would be fair to say they were one of the worst offensive lines in the country based on a lot of different measurements. But now 3 games into this year, a lot of conversation about the quarterbacks, a lot of conversation now about the running back situation with 2 guys out, a lot of conversation leading into the year and currently about where some of these younger wide receivers are and the downfield passing game. Suddenly the offensive line is just like not being talked about because everything else is. Yeah. But what have we seen from those guys up front?
I think they're not being talked about because they've been okay. They're like, it's not like way up or way down. It's just sort of, they're okay. I mean, you look at the rushing numbers and they're averaging 209 per game or something like that. So a lot of the formula that Rule wants is being executed by that group. They did have a strong fourth quarter where they ran for 90 plus yards. The thing they've got to avoid, and I know that Northern Illinois threw some junk stuff at them that maybe they weren't expecting, and you got a young quarterback, and maybe Harburg was supposed to do something different on a play or two. But there were those 2 or 3 series after the initial drive where it was just sort of off the rails. It wasn't even they let guys go free, and I know that's a combination of things and not just the O-line, but those are the series they have to get away from and that you hope they do on this Saturday. I mean, even if it's a 3 and out, at least have it be a 3 and out where you fail on a 3rd and 2 or something like that, as opposed to it's, 3rd and 15 on 2 series in a row. So I think that's a big key for them to avoid sort of that. I understand they're working up to the fourth quarter, but to not have it look so much like an eyesore for a couple series here and there in between the first drive and the last drive.
Brunt, why is Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rule, why are they hiding the young wide receivers? Why are they not allowing the fans to experience the joy that is Malachi Coleman and Jalen Lloyd and all of these guys? Why, Brunt? Why?
Well, we had a miniature puke gate this week.
Yeah, I saw that.
So there's that. It's not an easy position to play. Like I think people assume that wide receiver, you go out there, you run some routes, and that's you're good. And I think there's a learning curve for Coleman and for Lloyd. And I think Jaden Doss would be in the mix right now if he were healthy. He's coming back from an arm or a hand injury. We've kind of gotten mixed diagnoses there, but Coleman and Lloyd were not here in the spring, so they're behind a little bit there. I think you'll start to see them a little bit more as time passes. I also think that Nebraska, I think they're being careful with redshirts still at certain spots, and I think they want to be sure that at wide receiver, that if a guy's going to go in there and play, that they're going to get their year's worth. And I think with the 2 injuries that they've had at the running back spot, I think you're going to need to find big plays somehow. And maybe those guys can provide that. Maybe you see somebody emerge, but I think you just have to be a little bit patient there, because I think the thing you can say about the staff is they're not going to be afraid to play a guy that can help them. They're not going to be afraid to play young guys, and when they're ready, they'll play. And I think it's just a matter of patience and them not hiding these guys away or sheltering them. It's just, that they need to have confidence and trust that when they get put in the game, that there's not going to be the drop off from the top unit to the second guys. So I think that's just the issue is maybe fans just need to be more patient. That's the problem.
The general public.
Yeah. The general public needs to be a little bit more patient.
No, stealing BC stuff. Wow, I like it. Brian, let's say hypothetically you had a friend that was in a coma that missed the first 3 weeks of the season.
I do. That hits a little too close to home.
That's oddly specific.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, I'm going to move forward with a question anyways, but please know that it was not intentional. Anyways, Someone wakes up, they don't know what has happened, and they ask you to describe Nebraska's offense. How would you describe Nebraska's offense based off of the 3 weeks that we have seen so far?
His wife.
Iowa E. It's Iowa E. Now, I don't mean that in a negative. It's Big Ten West.
It sure seemed negative.
Yeah.
No, the Iowa's not going to go over well. Big Ten Westy, and Rule has said as much. It's a slug it out offense. It's one where, he describes it often as a body blows organization, and they're building to that fourth quarter, and they're going to be patient. Like a key drive last week was the one where they didn't score, where they moved it from their own 8-yard line to the 50. They punted it, downed it at the 1. And that was a Big Ten West beauty of a sequence there in how Nebraska executed. They got the 3 and out on defense. So it's a grinder offense, and it's going to be one where they're going to stay patient with the run, even if it's not popping early. And it's an offense that is right now searching for big playmakers on the perimeter. I would tell that person that just came out of the coma. If they want me to keep talking, wouldn't they want to be talking about other stuff if they'd been in a coma for a few weeks and this? I don't know. But
I don't know. You think there's something bigger than Nebraska football?
There's got to be.
What you're trying to say here?
There's got to be something out there that's bigger than Nebraska football. But yeah, I would tell them they haven't hit that like home run play yet in the passing game, and they've tried with Tommy Hill each week, but that's been missing. So they haven't really found a deep threat, and that's something I do think that it is going to be important that as this year goes on, maybe we see it in a game or two where it can help flip things.
Lauren, is there anybody on offense that you are kind of you're wondering if maybe a breakout is coming, or you're seeing if there's a player or two that looks like maybe the future is still pretty bright for them here as the season moves along?
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to have seen them maybe lean on some of the younger guys. Obviously, I think Michael's right. I don't think we're going to necessarily see that this weekend. We're going to test the waters with some other people. But Bullock's been, his story's so good, and I know everyone's rooting for him. And if he can have a breakout game, that would be huge. The fact that skills position wise, there's just such a lack of depth makes me very nervous. Anthony Grant, I mean, he had a few breakout games last year, but he hasn't had that game where we've been like, wow, yet. I mean, we talked about it already. The time's now. If he doesn't have a game that he puts up significant numbers and really impresses fans and coaches alike, and is that guy you can lean on and say he's going to make a game-changing impact today, they're in some deep waters. And I think that's when you got to lean on some of the younger guys heading into a Michigan game. We'll wait on that. But yeah, I'd like to see Anthony Grant have a really complete game, run the ball really hard, have more than just one touchdown that didn't really have any game-changing effect. If he takes care of the ball well, they're going to play him. So I'm an AG fan right now, moving forward, hoping he can have a good game Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll take a quick time out here, and then we will come back with the defensive side of the ball. Okay, we're talking defense. Nebraska has started well the first 3 weeks of the season. They had a great defensive performance against Northern Illinois, and now they take on a Louisiana Tech team that has had a couple good offensive performances, have also disappeared, and maybe have a question at quarterback. So we'll see what Louisiana Tech can bring into Memorial Stadium. We'll start with Brian Christopherson. Brian, I think it was fair for people to be excited about what Nash Hutmacher could be, but did anybody really see this version of him this quickly?
No. Well, maybe some did. I didn't. I thought he was going to be solid, steady. I didn't think he was going to wreck shop as much as he has in the first few games. I mean, he was a real problem in that first quarter for Northern Illinois. 5 tackles and 2.5 for losses from a defensive tackle position is some stat line for 15 minutes of football. Against Minnesota was much of the same thing, where they just were having a trouble dealing with him. So he's been huge. I mean, he's been one of the best stories of the first quarter of this season. There's no question about it. And I just think he leaned out his body some, and you got to give Corey Campbell a lot of credit with some of the strength work he did with some guys' bodies. And I am not the guy to talk about strength and conditioning. Nobody wants to hear from a 165-pound guy about like what's what. But you look at some of those guys and how they've transformed. I do think they're going in the right direction with what they're doing in the offseason. And Nash Hutmacher is probably a prime example of that.
Thank you for saying his name correctly. At some point, I will get there, and I will default to what I've always known in my life to be Hutmacher. So we'll get there.
165, huh?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. That, yeah.
You didn't want to go oddly specific on your own weight on the podcast.
Yeah. It's not a good 165 really, but anyway, enough about me. Too specific.
We'll move on. Lauren, what are your thoughts on Nebraska's defense so far through 3 weeks this year?
Yeah, I mean, Tony White's been given a lot of good looks. That 3-3-5 scheme's been very fun to watch. I like the way guys have just been playing so much looser. I mean, you look at a guy like Gifford, and he's just flying around in the field, and it's just reckless abandonment. It's a good word to watch him play. And I think they're powerful, and I think they are keeping this team in it, honestly. I'd like to see them turn the ball or force more turnovers and force more takeaways. That's one thing I think Tony White really wants. I mean, he said yesterday they're at a good spot. Obviously, you look at the numbers, and in the Big Ten, they're sitting in good spots, especially in sacks. That's a great stat to see, but there's always more to be done. And I think his big thing is let's take the ball away more. And that's something that teams have been doing in Nebraska. It's got to be an opposite end too. And I like what they've been able to do. I think there's been a lot of guys that have stepped up. Cam Lenhart, true freshman. He's been impressive as hell to watch. I hope he's healthy for this weekend. Gaber, I can't remember how to say his last name.
Makai Bayer.
Yep. He's been super. I mean, he's come out of nowhere and been super impressive. So there's been a lot of young guys stepping up, which gives a lot of confidence for the future. And if they can just, play a little bit harder when it comes to forcing those takeaways, I think we'll be in a good spot. And they've done the job so far. Let's put it to the test ahead of a really big opponent next weekend. So one more complete game, they'll be in hopefully a good spot moving forward.
Brunt's working off of what Lauren talked about there with creating more turnovers. Is there something that you think would allow Nebraska to do that more easily? Or is it just simply when the opportunity's there, they have to finish with taking away the ball?
Yeah, through 3 games, it seems like, in each game, there's been a play or two where a ball goes right through a guy's hands. I mean, Gifford's against Minnesota was one that comes immediately to mind. I know Jalen Wright had one against Colorado, I think, that kind of the same situation. I don't know. Some of that's just luck. Like, it's the ball bouncing the right way on a fumble. It's, tipping the ball a little bit differently than it does. I mean, I think those things will come, and I think it happens when you're consistently around the ball, you're able to generate pressure, and they've done that really well. I mean, I think if you want to nitpick, and I guess we can, Tony White wants to see more sacks up front with just guys winning a one-on-one, because they can obviously scheme up pressure. They've done that really well through 3 games. Now it's, can Nash Hutmacher, beat his guy and get to the quarterback without having to bring 6 guys in pressure. So that to me is kind of the next step. And when you start to do those things, I think that's when you start to see the turnovers happen. But I mean, if there is a quibble, you'd like to see, a few more offensive possessions for Nebraska's offense, because if you're going to try to play complementary football, you're going to control the clock, all that other stuff. If you have extra possessions, it allows you to do that a lot more easily. So, that would kind of, help, I think, in a lot of areas if you could get a possession or 2 extra for your offense. And not only that, I mean, it helps with field position. And that's something that, even though the defense has been pretty good, they've still been kind of fighting that a little bit, where a lot of the games been played in Nebraska's own end. So room to grow. But I mean, I don't know that, even the most positive Nebraska fans would have seen this start from the defense 3 games in.
Lauren, when you're going back, you're watching highlights, you're putting this whole thing together for the broadcast. I mean, what defensive players have really kind of popped for you? I mean, who's had some of these these highlights where you're like, yeah, I gotta make sure that's in our broadcast.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Nash has been so fun to watch. Like absolutely wreaks havoc on his man. Gifford, the way I think you mentioned him earlier, the way he just plays smooth, confidently. He's easy to spot. I mean, on our end, it's like you're watching for him to make some type of game change and play. I think the whole D line in general has been pretty solid. I mean, yeah, it's like with Nebraska, you get so nervous to feel like, I mean, I'm not as seasoned and covering the Huskers as you guys, but you get so nervous to be confident in any type of unit. But there's a lot of faces, a lot of guys to be excited about. Quinton Newsome, he's been a guy that's been pretty consistent, but I'd like to see him make more like game-changing plays. But yeah, I mean, probably the best guy to watch on defense right now, in my opinion, is Nash. He's just fun, and you can count on him to do something big for the team. But yeah, let's get some more guys in. They're moving around. They're playing a lot of different guys. They're not afraid to start any freshmen. So let's continue to bring in new guys and rotate them around and see. It seems like every weekend there's a new player that steps up and makes some type of play that gets our eyes on him as media, and we're looking out for him the next game.
How about that? Lauren's been covering Nebraska football for a season and 3 games, and she already knows that if you have confidence in something, it will come back and haunt you.
That's horrible.
She knows. She's a seasoned vet.
You're already jaded. It's great.
That's incredible.
I mean, there's a lot. They're ranked like second nationally in what is it, like rushing? Like I don't know. Like they're doing defensively. There's a lot to be excited about, and that seems to be a lot of the culture of what this team kind of at one point.
But you're still waiting for that other shoe to fall.
Yeah, you're waiting for the shoe to drop.
A little bit.
That's great. All right, Brian. The first week Omar Brown popped off the screen, if you will, if you were watching it, or off the field. Then we saw Mekhi Bear, and then AJ Rollins steps in against Northern Illinois. Call your shot. I know this isn't the oddly specific prediction portion of it, but call your shot. Which Nebraska defender are we going to be talking about after this Louisiana Tech game?
How about Javen Wright? Let's go with him. I mean, it's a good story that he's someone everybody in this fan base has been excited about since he got here, the son of Toby Wright. He's been trained in football since he was like a little I remember we wrote the big feature on him when he was a recruit, and he's a 3-year-old hopping over the ottoman and all that stuff. And he's a guy who started at corner. Maybe he's a safety. He's found his home at linebacker, and he looks like he's going to be a guy for the next 2 years or so that is going to be heavily involved in everything they do defensively because he's so versatile. You can use him in so many different ways. So I think his snap count is one I would watch to maybe climb, even though they are playing so many guys. And he seems like a guy who is going to find the ball. Like you got the turnover last week, as Bruns mentioned earlier. He almost got one against Colorado. He almost got the sack on the big play Colorado got on the 3rd and 10 before over Tommy Hill. So he's close even when the plays haven't gone his way. So he'd be a guy I'd definitely watch.
Bruns, who's the best pass rusher on Nebraska's team in 2023?
I would say probably Cam Linhart when he's healthy. I think that's where I would go. I think he's quick off the ball. I think he's probably stronger than maybe what you would expect from a guy that's his size, having to go against offensive tackles. So I'd go there. I think he's probably the best candidate to win on one-on-one if you really need a big play.
All right. It is oddly specific prediction time. Again, I did not inform Lauren a lot before the show as to how this works. And so she's gonna listen as you guys sort of, in your own way, explain what oddly specific predictions are by making your oddly specific predictions for this Louisiana Tech game. Brian Christopherson, we'll start with you.
All right, I'll do 2 of them. Omar Brown's going to pick off a pass where it bounces off. The pass is going to have a little too much sauce on it for Smoke Harris. It's going to bounce off his hands, kind of a QB fault on the play. It's going to bounce right to Omar Brown on the 36. He's going to take it to the house. And it's going to be one of those pick sixes where you can kind of enjoy it the last 10 yards as a DB, where you can like put kind of just palm the ball in one hand and stuff, you know, or you,
like Merton Hanks.
Yeah.
that
In the
style?
old, in the old days, you'd high step it a little bit, but you won't, I don't think he will, but he'll put it in one hand. It'll be kind of cool looking. It'll be a good shot for Lauren to play. And then the other thing on offense, they're going to finally hit. It's going to be Harburg to Hill. They're going to finally hit one of those. It's going to be a 54-yard touchdown to Tommy Hill. And Tommy's gotten by the guys. He's beating people. They just got to have it come together. And I thought he actually could have caught that one from Harburg the other day. He dove it like it wasn't that bad of a ball. So I'll say a 54-yard touchdown to Tommy Hill that gets everybody juiced up a bit.
Brunt?
I think Thomas Fidone is going to catch a touchdown pass for the third straight game. I think he's going to kind of a similar seam route to what we saw last week. I think it's going to go for 23 yards. I don't know that he's going to shush the crowd this time, though. I think he might switch it up with a different celebration.
The Bill Callahan had it up to here.
I'll give a Hulk Hogan one of these. He's gonna listen for it this time. So 23 yards to Thomas Fidone over the middle with this as the celebration, and then I think we're gonna see another big sack game for the defensive line. I'll go with Nash with one sack, and Riley Van Poppel. I'm still. It's going to happen. I'm going to go with him for a sack. So interior line's going to have a day.
Yeah. I'm working off of Brunt's a little bit here. Nebraska in the first half is going to force not one, but two holding calls on Louisiana Tech. The fans are just going to be completely worked up. And one of these, it'll get moved back from 3rd and 5, which they would have picked up the first down on this egregious holding call. I'm pretty sure that Ty Robinson was put into a chokehold. That's basically how the call gets made there. Then on 3rd and 15, Nick Henrich is going to come through the middle on a blitz, finish with a sack, and then do a hairband headbanging celebration and throw the bones. And Memorial Stadium's just going to go bananas. So a pretty convoluted, oddly specific scenario, but I expect to be correct on Sunday morning when we roll through these. All right, Lauren, did that help at all? Do you have any idea what's happening here?
They got progressively more extreme, but I'm here for it. Okay. Offensively, I'm gonna ruffle some feathers here. They're gonna start Sims. He's gonna have a complete opening drive. They're not going to score, but he's going to move the ball well. The passing game is going to take a little bit of a step up this week. So that's what Sat wants, right? I'm not going to actually put any bad omens out there. Needless to say, Heinrich's going to come back in and absolutely. They're going to
yada.
Wow.
And he's going to throw the hell out of it. They're going to use the deep ball. Fidone is going to have a hell of a game. He's going to score probably 2 touchdowns the first quarter alone. Get so confident and excited, and the Nebraska fans are going to lose their shit, for lack of a better word. Okay, now we'll take it down a notch. Where's Malcolm Hartzog been? I want to see him pick off a pass and take it all the way in for a touchdown. And God, he looks so young. He's not a freshman anymore; he's a sophomore. But yeah, let's use him. Let's have him go in, and the same as it was about this time last year. He just kind of came from the woodworks and surprised everyone. Let's see him do it again this year. So, yeah.
All right, I think this is a first on the HypeCast. We have a quarterback change as one of the oddly specific predictions. Lauren, you're breaking ground here on your first Husker 24/7 HypeCast.
Groundbreaking. I hope that is not something that becomes reality.
Well, we will. You'll get all the credit should it happen. We will make sure that no one steals it from you. I promise you that. All right, picks to click. The player that you think is going to have a good game on Saturday. Brunch, we'll start with you.
I'll go Anthony Grant. He's going to get the ball a lot. I think he's going to rise to the challenge of being the guy again. And so I anticipate that Anthony Grant is going to have a very good day. And I think they'll mix in some Emmett Johnson, but I think it's going to be a bell cow kind of day for Anthony Grant. So he's my pick to click.
A lot of talk about interceptions on today's HypeCast. I'm going to go the other way. Nebraska gets a fumble recovery, and it is Deshaun Singleton who picks up a fumble and runs it to the house. So that is my pick to click. Deshaun Singleton, Johnny on the spot, gets the first defensive touchdown of the year. Lauren, your pick to click.
I can get on that. I love Deshaun Singleton's a heck of a player. Okay, Billy Kemp's he's got to step up. Let's have Billy Kemp have an absolute breakout game Saturday. He seemed confident at the podium yesterday. Let's see him really take control of this offense, make it his.
All right, BC.
Lauren mentioned Gifford earlier. I think this is a Gifford game at the Rovers spot. Yeah, he's just gonna be all over the field. Feels like he'll be heavily involved in a lot of things. Maybe a turnover at some point, but I think he's going to. He's becoming more and more Domanish toward the end of his career. JoJo Doman near the end of his career, where you felt like this guy really, you just see his versatility all over the place, no matter what they're throwing at you. So I think Gifford. Probably more than any point this season shows that on Saturday.
Okay. All right. Score prediction time. We'll just work in reverse order there. BC, what do you got?
It's a snake draft. I see. I'll say Nebraska 34, Louisiana Tech 17. There'll be a couple uneasy moments in the middle portion of the game. I think it's going to kind of take the same flow as last week, though, where Nebraska's going to be a little ahead, and then they have that third quarter drive where they kind of put it away. With that, though, I'm saying that Tristan Alvano hits a couple field goals, so that would be big for him if that were to happen.
Yeah,
Lauren.
Yeah, I'll do 31-13. Hoping defense can keep those points off the board for La Tech a little bit more. And yeah, I too would like to see Tristan Alvano have a heck of a game, like 1 or 2 or 3, or in this case 1. But yeah, he impresses me every time he lines up to kick. I can't believe that guy's a freshman. I still look back to that Class A state title game and I'm just like, oh, wow.
I should have just made this my oddly specific prediction in addition to everything else. But I think this is Nebraska's highest scoring game of the season. I don't know that Louisiana Tech is stopping much right now. I think Nebraska gets 48, Louisiana Tech 20. They score a last-second touchdown yet again, and people's angst turns into, why can't Nebraska get stops in mop-up duty? 48-20, Nebraska. Brunts, take us home.
I think Louisiana Tech scores late to make it scroll nicely. It's going to be 32-19 Nebraska. These two teams, it's going to be ugly at times. They've combined for 15 total giveaways this season, so it might not be aesthetically pleasing football, but Tim Rattay is not going to come out of that tunnel for Louisiana Tech, so I think Nebraska is going to be okay. 32-19 Nebraska.
Okay. Do you want to add with that 19? Are they not getting the 2-point conversion, or do they miss the extra point? What's happening here?
I don't know how it happens. Maybe they go like Northern Illinois did and go for 2 with 4 seconds left, trailing by 4 scores, and don't get it. So that's where it doesn't scroll nearly as well as 32-21 would.
That's what the card would say, Bruns. They were trying to get it to a 3. They're trying to get it to a 3-score game. Your 32 is more interesting than the 19.
I don't know how we get there.
I feel like Nebraska's had 32 a few different times, whether it's been missed extra points, safeties. Like I feel like 32 has been a number they've had in recent history.
We need some scoregami.
All right. Well, Lauren, hopefully that was worth your time and you enjoyed your experience. If not,
that's fine.
You never have to come back on the podcast again. This one's in the can. We're good to go.
You guys were great. This was thoroughly entertaining. So thank you for having me.
All right. For Lauren Michelsen of Channel 8, For Brian Christopherson, Michael Bruntz, I'm Mike Schaefer. We're Husker247. You're listening to Husker247 HypeCast. Be sure to check out everything we have going on at Husker247.com. Plenty of coverage leading up to the Louisiana Tech game, and of course, plenty of coverage coming out of it. We'll be back with more podcast content later on.